All right, welcome to week three. Mystery 152, kind of still going around the world. Last week we were in the Americas, Oceania, and looked at the societies there. What's going on prior to this age of expansion, and then how obviously that changed very drastically. Kind of what the discussion posts were about. The first one was sort of back to week one, multi-causality. And I think people answered that was good using the course materials to kind of look at the different causes and some of the details of those causes, the technological, the political, economic, religious causes. So that was good if you answered that one. The second one was about the Americas and sort of compare and contrast different impacts of European expansion. Obviously, the Spanish establishing a very well-defined empire because there was already empires there in Central and South America, so they just kind of transferred the power to themselves. And then versus North America, where it's much more sort of integrated, more business oriented. There wasn't, it's more working in tandem with the indigenous peoples. Though, as we learned with Columbian Exchange, a lot was changing in the environments, landscapes, particularly in populations. So, and I think a lot of people did a good job answering that one of what were these products being exchanged. Some of them were, just basic things people had never seen before: tomatoes, potatoes, cacao from the Americas, and then a lot of animals from the old world: cows, pigs, horses. Right, and then within that, a lot of biological exchange. I think a lot of people talked about the impact of disease against peoples in the Americas and Oceania. Right, because of sort of not a lot of contact with the outside, with Europe, Asia, and Africa have always kind of been in contact. I mean, plagues and diseases went across the Silk Road constantly, so built up immunities over time when introducing these pathogens into the New World really ravaged these societies. It's estimated up to 90%. I think a lot of people answered that, looked at that. So I mean, you can kind of think about just how decimating that was. I mean, think of if we lost 90% of Hilo, or 90% of the people on the Big Island died. How would we rebuild that? How would we rebuild this island? How would things change? Obviously, it would drastically. So yeah. In fact, I mean, that doesn't have to be hypothetical. I mean, that's really what that happened here in Oceania, all over Oceania. That diseases came, wiped out a large population, and then new societies emerged out of that. So good. And so the discussion posts, good talk on those. Again, just use the course material, try to incorporate that into your answer. But I think everyone did a pretty good job of that there. And then this week we're going east. And what was existing there, starting with Islamic empires, the Ottomans, Safavids, the Mughals. You have these thriving Islamic empires that were sort of well organized, and again, it wasn't with the contact there. Was through trade, particularly with the establishment of joint stock companies. The Europeans weren't just coming in and taking over; they were negotiating and getting in contact with these different groups. So now you know a little bit more about the Islamic empires that existed there, and then even further to East Asia, China and Japan. China again has a long history of very dynamic imperial periods. Right about circa 1500 is the Ming Dynasty. So one of we can kind of see parallels there with Europe after the bubonic plague. It also impacted China. In fact, it might have even started in China. That brought about the decline of the Yang Dynasty, the Mongol period, and out of this came the Ming. I think Ming is splendor, I think is what it translates as, shining. So it's sort of cultural revival, and in the lecture I talk about different facets of this cultural revival. Bring back Confucianism, building the Forbidden Palace, right in Beijing, the Xinghe voyages, all of those things, and then after that into the Qing Dynasty. They're two big, strong, long-lasting. I think over 100 years of the first two rulers there. So very stable period of Japanese or Chinese history. Europeans came, Portuguese first. Religion came, Matteo Ricci, these Jesuits talk about that a little bit more when we get to Protestant Reformation. But the Jesuits are there, again, trying to kind of figure out China. But you can kind of see the very different, I mean, compare and contrast sort of the spread of Christianity in the Americas, particularly like indigenous peoples. A lot of people converted versus China, where they used to have this sort of Portuguese outpost where religion was there, but there wasn't a lot of conversion to Christianity. And then Japan also has a very interesting history. Right around 1500, a little bit after that is where Japan unified. Talk about Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, and Ieyasu, Tokugawa. And then after that, Tokugawa unifies Japan, establishes a new shogunate, establishes a capital at Tokyo. This is where the shift from the traditional capital of Kyoto to Tokyo comes. And then their response to European expansion was to isolate themselves. Sakoku, I think it's the term, where they purposely tried to get rid of outside influences, right? And that's kind of, they just unified. They wanted to maintain sort of peace and stability. European knowledge, technologies thing, and influence could disrupt that. So the Tokugawas sort of put them out. But it was also very, very culturally rich period. A lot of art, hokusai there, a lot of theater, all that stuff. So that kind of gives you an idea of what's going on in the East, circa 1500, and in this age of expansion. So yeah, hopefully that's know a little bit more about that. This week, the assignment for this week, and I've been trying to kind of do this in my lectures, is pick out archaeological or architectural pieces of architecture that discuss or relate to the age of expansion. So what I want you to do is pick one of those somewhere in the world. Again, it should be something between this 1500 to 1700 period. And your job is to first describe what this is. I try to put it there, and then explain how it connects to the age of expansion. So I think I've given a lot of information in examples in the lectures in the last 3 weeks. Feel free to use one of those. Next week we're going to talk about the Americas and Africa, but you can still, if you want to kind of go ahead, if you know of some places, some interesting architectural features there, feel free. But again, try to keep it to this age of expansion. This is how the whole point is kind of historically to be thinking about how we can use architecture as a primary source to explain what was going on at this time. So that's kind of your job. Explain what this piece of architecture is, expand it out, and how it relates to the age of expansion in general. So I think that's it. If you have any questions on the architecture write-up, please let me know. Again, include a picture of it and a citation and your name. And I think this time you can, if you just put the title of it in assignments, that'll just turn off Lamaku from reminding you that it's due. And then the last thing, if you look at student announcements, I added something came across my desk about Japan, study abroad in Japan for the spring. Unfortunately, the deadline to be nominated that is very quickly, but if you want to go to Japan, here's an opportunity. You can email the people on the flyer or email me. I can help you give you some more information about that. But that's it for this week. Have a good rest of your week.